Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
So you spend your whole life looking for purpose. What am I going to become? Why? Why would I want to do that? Why? What is my purpose in life? Your purpose is you. You are the purpose. Unfolding who you are and what you want to become in this world is your purpose.
Are you a teen or adult looking for more happiness in every day and ways to connect with people in your life?
You've come to the right place. Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
And we're the two teens behind Small Bits of Happiness.
We're interviewing Olympic athletes, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and more.
Throughout all of our episodes, you'll find great conversations, hacks that you can take away and try in your life, inspiration, as well as unique and surprising insights. Joining us today, we have Sue Bryce. Sue Bryce has been a professional photographer for 34 years, and in the first 10 years, Sue mastered her craft. The second 10 years, she mastered being self-employed and building a sustainable business, and this is where Sue says she experienced her greatest self-growth and self-confidence. In 2009, after building a successful business, she moved to the USA from New Zealand to launch an online education company to teach creatives how to master their craft, curate content, and monetize their creativity. Sue says that after coaching 28,000 startup business owners, she saw the most powerful transformation occur when we shift our self-value. Sue has been teaching self-value for 13 years, and today you will find her coaching at selfvalue.com. Welcome, Sue.
Nice to talk to you and all of your audience.
Yes, well, thank you. We're so excited to have you with us today. So we've heard your words of wisdom from our mom for years because we love watching your content together with her. And we are so excited that you're now doing self-value workshops and programs that aren't just for photographers, but they're for everyone because everyone can definitely work on obtaining more self-value, especially teens, as we are struggling to find our own voice and ourselves. Plus, a lot of the time we're comparing ourselves to other people, and that's just how we're trying to find the way in the world. So could you tell us and our audience more about how you started your journey into discovering your self-value and then sharing this knowledge with the world?
All right. So I did not finish high school. And there's a big disclaimer there because I don't want any of your parents coming after me for this. The circumstances of my life meant that something happened and I couldn't finish high school and I had to leave. But because my parents didn't have a lot of money and they were working class, they were hardworking people, but they didn't own a business and they weren't entrepreneurs. So it was really like, you just need to go and get a good job. And then I realized all the jobs I could get as a 15-year-old were very low paying jobs and very basic retail jobs and things like that. And that's really good when you're 15, you're getting some money. But then I realized I was not going to have a career or anything because I didn't have that tertiary education or finish that high school. So for me, I kind of bounced around community programs that were available in my country, New Zealand. And then I dabbled in hairdressing and graphic design and a few things that felt good. But when I was 18, I found photography. And I got into a studio as a junior artist, and I just worked my way up to being in the main camera room. And I didn't need to have an education in order to do that, but it did hinder me that I didn't have an education. And I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And so as I grew up into my 20s, I started to get better at being a photographer. And I realized I wasn't really getting paid that much. And, my boss was, making a lot of money from me. And I just didn't have that self-value to ask for more, to sort of step up and become more. I thought it was something that maybe was given to certain kids, or maybe it was like this gift that you got from your parents. And I knew my parents had a lot of love and a lot of self-love, but they just didn't teach me how to make more. And so I didn't really know how to become anything. And so I realized that I was lacking a lot of self-confidence. I didn't really have clarity on where I wanted to go. I didn't have any ownership of who I was and what my power was. I was at this time, very early 20s, just trying to find my identity. And all teenagers, all children are just trying to find their own identity. So there's that moment, there's my dog barking, sorry about that. There is this moment where we just sort of step into our own power And that was the moment that I realized if I was going to have a career or get more educated or become something or even build a business, I was going to have to learn a lot more self-confidence. And that was the moment I realized I needed to have a little bit more than just the skill of doing something. I needed to believe in myself. I needed to get clarity on my path forward. So my journey to self-value came into my 20s. And then when I started my business, I was 30 when I started my business. That's old. I mean, I would have, if I could go back now, I would start my business at 18. But yeah, I realized in that moment, in order to put myself out there and become this name and this voice and this face, to manage people, to work with other adults, like I was still young, so older people intimidated me, especially around money, to ask for money. I would need a whole lot of sort of confidence. So that's the moment I realized I was missing something very vital, and self-value was that piece.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. Like, being a teenager in itself is all about kind of finding your identity and finding who you are. And so to have that additional stress of everything else going on in your life makes it even more challenging. And so I think that finding that piece of your own value is like you said, so vital to success and to building yourself up, because not only are skills needed to achieve whatever your goal is, but also to believe in your skill and believe that you can grow in your skill and believe that you have room to grow. So
also, just imagine too, at that moment, if you think that there's something wrong with you, like I'm not smart enough, or I didn't have an education, or my parents aren't wealthy, my parents don't care about me. My parents cared about me a lot. But if that is you, you don't feel supported, or you've got all these creative ideas, but you don't know how to bring them to fruition, or there's nobody nurturing you as like in your future, like nobody cares about your future, then what do? As a kid, you just sit back and think, well, it's not fair. I don't have, they have this and I don't have this. And so I did go through, when I found my identity there, that was when I realized that if I mastered this, like if I got really good at photography, then people would think that I'm valuable because I was able to do this skill. And so it was all my self-belief. So yeah, as a teenager, if you think there's something wrong with you or not good enough about you, whatever that thing that you think is what makes you not perfect is actually what makes you really extraordinary.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you keep looking for identities. Really what you're saying is I'm trying to break away from my mum and dad's identity, because as a kid, that's the first identity you're going to get. And now I'm trying to form my own adult voice and who I am and what I want. So the most powerful thing you can do as a teenager is fully own who you are. You're never a mistake and you're never broken. You might have had some bad programming, like maybe mum and dad didn't know how to teach you certain things, and that's okay. They're just learning too. But we get this identity and then we fight against it. So to me, I spent all those years thinking I wasn't good enough to do these things. And I was absolutely good enough to do all of those things if that's what I wanted to do.
I love that. So what would you say are the best tips for that, for finding yourself and being okay with your flaws and pushing that towards your success?
When we think we have a flaw, we hide it from everybody and it's internalized and we're constantly worried about it. Like if it's body image or if it's educational smarts or whatever you think it is, it's just constantly, it's like you put it as a filter. And then everything you hear comes through that filter. Like if you believe nobody loves me, and then everything you do, you're going to see that one thing just reflected back in everything you do. That's not true. And so when you do have something like that you kind of hide, you don't share it. And these dark parts about ourselves, we keep hidden as secrets. Like if people knew this about me, they wouldn't love me, so I can't share it. it's about like owning all of your stuff, like owning your bad stuff, owning your good stuff, and just saying, I'm okay. Like, I don't ever want to hurt people with what I'm doing or saying, but whatever I want to do or say or be is who I really am inside. Start to be the person on the outside that you feel like you are on the inside. And, a lot of the times with parents and teenagers, if you're having problems with your parents wanting you to become something and you're fighting that identity because you want to find your own path through there, in order to not live mum and dad's limits and rules for what you want to become, you would have to show them what is better about you that you've decided is you. Like, instead of pushing back and saying, stop telling me what to be, show them who you really are at the fullest version of yourself, and just accept yourself and everything that you are. Because sometimes we feel like little freaks where we think we're really different. And then you start to talk to people and you realize we all have the same comparison, the same insecurities. We all have the same weird things. And then you start to find your people. And instead of hiding these things about yourself, you can say, I am like this. And then people will go, okay, but because you're okay with it, they're okay with it. And that's the thing with teenagers. We love rooting for the underdog because we want everybody to find their own path forward and be strong like adults. And the only way you do that is, you live and learn. So to me, it's whatever you think you're hiding about yourself, bring that forward. You're not hiding anything. You're keeping that a secret. And you should love and accept every part of yourself.
I absolutely love that. And I think that you're so right with how, as teenagers, having a supportive community is such an important aspect of becoming the best version of yourself. And sometimes if we are lacking good friends, or maybe we don't feel supported by our parents or certain family members, we start to blame them. But I think it's important to kind of also realize that we have more power than we think.
That's a good one. You start to blame them. But listen, you only push back when you're supported. If somebody's supporting you doing what you want to do, that feels like good support, right? So when mum and dad are supporting you to become something that maybe you don't want to become, what does that feel like? That feels like you're trying to make me be something I don't want to be. So there's that moment there where your parents always want the best for you. And as kids, we get really scared of our parents because, they're parents. As you're an adult, you start to lose that fear and you start to see your parents as just other people in the world instead of, the absolute sole provider of your entire existence. And you start to realize that they just want what's best for you. So you've got to take what they give you as guidance and then tell them what you also want and need. And you're really here to just experience yourself and unfold who you really are so that you can just be an awesome adult that lives an awesome life doing what they really want to do. And that's really what all parents want. They just are trying so hard to help guide you. And I feel like teenagers push back on the identity first. So
yeah, you are so inspiring and full of incredible advice. And a lot of teens feel insecure. So what are your top 3 tips on, advice to them to find more value in themselves?
Ooh, I've always had a lot of self-assurance. I don't know whether that's just I was born with it. There's a really cool test you can take called Clifton Strengths where you find out what all your strengths are. And a lot of quizzes kind of work out what your weaknesses are, but this one is specifically about your strengths, and self-assurance is one of my top 5. To me, I love meeting people and learning about people. So to me, I always say that the most confident people are just the most open to other people. I always think of Cinderella, courage and kindness, because look at it like this. If you walk into a room wondering what everybody thinks of you, then all you ever think about is yourself. And if you walk into a room comparing yourself to everybody in the room, which you will do, because it's your brain is going to contrast and compare, that's just safety, then you're going to compare yourself to others. And if you compare yourself, there's always going to be someone that's prettier than you, that's smarter than you, that's richer than you, that's more talented than you, that even has the partner that you want. So you can spend your whole life comparing yourself and it won't make you a better person. But if you walk into a room filled with self-confidence, I am a good person. Remember the golden rule. It's not, I hope they like me. It's, I like myself enough that if they don't like me, I'll be okay. That's how you walk into a room. Then walk into the room instead of receiving or looking for validation or looking around to see if you're valid or important or good enough, or if you're the pretty one today or the smart one today. Instead of looking around, think about, what am I giving to everybody in this room? And that's where courage and kindness comes in, that you can just fill yourself with self-love, walk into a room with courage and kindness, be kind to every person in that room, because you have so much like kindness and love to give, because you're not worried about, am I good enough or pretty enough? And that needing of validation, you can spend your whole life needing that when you walk into a room. But the most powerful people in the world walk into the room giving energy, because they're filled up. That would be number one. Number two, we all look for love and we look for validation, to be important, to be good enough, but nobody brings love to you. Love comes from inside you, so it can't be brought to you. And so we think, if somebody loves me, then I'm good enough. It's like, no, if I love me, then I'm good enough. And so then turn all of that into, I love myself first, and then those that get to know me get to know the real me. And because I love me, I can come to you with a full cup and pour from a full cup. So that would be the second one. And then the third one would be, my job is to love who I am and protect the castle, protect myself first, and make sure I'm always in a loving place with friends and family, but fully owning who I am as I unfold the identity of who I'm becoming as an adult. You're 13 and 15.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember at 14 years old saying to my mum, what more can I learn as an adult? I know everything there is to know. I feel very mature in my thinking, and I feel like I've got this world sorted. And my mum was like, well, all you're going to really discover in the next 10 years is who you really are and what you really want to become, and how much you can enjoy yourself in this world. So to me, it was like, maybe it was always that, number three, I'm the purpose. So you spend your whole life looking for purpose. What am I going to become? Why? Why would I want to do that? Why? What is my purpose in life? Your purpose is you. You are the purpose. Unfolding who you are and what you want to become in this world is your purpose. Everything else is your life. So just enjoy just unfolding who you really are. And just remember, for all of life's dramas and, stresses, that what it really comes down to is you being able to love yourself, be alone with yourself, soothe yourself when you are upset or hurt, and get up every day and reconnect yourself to what you really love to do. And then just making a life, whether that's a hobby or a way of life or a career, is walking towards what you want every single day and lighting yourself up.
I absolutely love that you are the purpose, because I think
Yeah.
as teenagers, finding your purpose is such a big thing. Everyone's like, oh, what do I want to do after I graduate high school? What do I want to do in high school? Who am I going to be friends with? what am I going to do in the future? And it's this whole stress and this whole struggle of discovering who you are and what you're meant to do and why you're here. But I think that just kind of letting yourself almost be the guiding light and being like, if you want to do something, then it's the right thing to do, because it's your purpose is to kind of fulfill yourself. And when you are fulfilled, like you said, when you're fulfilled, then you're able to fulfill all the other elements of your life.
And I love how
Every time you said, hang on, Anastasia, let me just say this. You keep doing that because what you're actually talking about is how you feel in that space. And even as you're gesticulating, you keep going, because you keep coming back to a feeling. So I just want you to hold to exactly what you just said. It's a feeling. What am I doing that feels so good? Not what am I becoming? Like, okay, so when you say to a teenager, what are you going to be when you leave high school? What are you going to be when you grow up? And you go, I don't know. You're trying to look for a noun or maybe a basic adjective, or maybe it's like, I want to be a writer. You're not saying what you're writing, but you're just describing it. But truly, when you do things, it's a verb. So what are you doing that most lights you up? And so even when you're young and you can't find that path yet, just start thinking, what am I doing when I feel the most connected? What am I doing? Like maybe you're podcasting, maybe you're talking to other people, maybe you're presenting on stage, maybe you're performing, maybe you're playing music, maybe you're writing poems, maybe you're creating TikTok videos, maybe you are. All of those things are verbs. You are doing something that you do naturally. So as a teenager, do you know what I was doing? I was coaching people. I was a coach. I played a lot of sports, so I would coach sport. I would coach 4 or 5 different sports a year, because really coaching was my superpower, but I didn't know I wanted to be a coach, because how would I know that at 14? But I knew that I loved coaching. So instead of saying, what do you want to be? Why don't you say, what do I love doing? Because it's the verb of what I'm doing that makes me become this thing. And all of a sudden that changes everything, because then I don't have to necessarily name it. And maybe it's you can't name it because you can't quite see the big picture yet. Like if you love to present in, say, debate class, you might end up in politics, but you don't know that that's what you want. You just started going, I love debate in high school. I love being in the debate team. And then it's like, wow, then clearly you like to be on stage. You like to debate. Maybe you like politics. Maybe you want to be a lawyer. Let the noun unfold, but follow the verb. And, like my first question to you two is, you two are podcasting as teenagers. Clearly, this is something that you love doing, because it's the doing of it that makes you come back to it every single day. You can't get to mastery until you do it every day. And you can't turn up and do it every day unless you really love doing it and your heart's connected to doing it. So that's what I'm always asking everyone. Not what do you want to become, not the name of what you want to be. What do you love doing? And that is the way forward.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah,
and it's
I think that also, like, when you have something that you love doing, I think that's when you can become successful at it. Because if you're doing something that you don't love and you're just doing it, I don't know, because you feel like that's what's gonna make you the most successful. And I think compared to when you actually love doing it, it's
kind of like, instead of doing something for the success, do something because you love it, and then the success will come. And whatever type of success that is.
You can't get success when you don't love it. So here's the secret. All alignment, all manifestation is clarity. All alignment is when your thoughts, what you want, and your actions are all in perfect alignment with what you're doing. So if you say, I don't love being a dentist, but I'm going to be a dentist because it pays the bills. Well, you will never be a dentist that thrives. You will always be a dentist that just pays their bills. So I always say what you do is the rocket ship, but the fuel in your rocket every single day is the heart connection you have to showing up, to doing it every day. And you simply can't show up to someone else's dream, can you? How could you possibly be in alignment building something when you're not building what you want to build, when you're not being what you want to be, when you are not doing what you want to do. So your goal is to find a way to do what you love doing, get lit up by it, and then find a way to monetize that. And then you've got a little business.
Absolutely. Yes. I
100%.
love that so much. So in addition to all of that, what are your tips for parents of kids and teenagers to help their own children value themselves more?
I do say 3 things that make parents cry whenever they sit in my audience. The first thing I say is stop pretending your children are going to be anything more than what you have allowed for yourself. You know, the first teachers we have are our social curators, our guardians, our parents. And we want our parents to live their fullest life. But we also want to live our fullest life. And so I always say, you have to demonstrate to your children what unfolding means and what self-love is and what self-confidence is. Because, children don't do what you say, they do as you do. And so the other one is Carl Jung said that the most impact on a child is the unlived life of a parent. So what's important for me when I coach parents is they always say this to me, girls. They always say, would you come and talk to my teenagers? You're so powerful. Would you talk to my teenagers about confidence and self-love? And I say, yes. But what I really want to do is give that to you, mama, so that you can demonstrate that to your children, so that you can be that, not just be a mum and dad that tell their kids that they can be everything. You're showing your kids they can be the fullest version of themselves. I think self-development is not taught in school. And why? And so many people come up to me after self-value and say, would you teach this to teenagers and kids? And I say, your job is to teach that to your kids. That's your job. And the only way you can do that is to do that yourself. So what we want to do is always make sure our parents are in a loving, full place, allowing us to unfold, but they've got to keep unfolding too. And this is a process you never stop doing, because first you're a teenager, then you're in college, maybe, or not. Then you're in the workforce. Then you're maybe getting married. Then you could be having children. Every one of those big life stages come with unfolding more about you, and you're older and you're learning more about yourself. So I feel like parents should never stop doing the self-love work, because loving yourself is the greatest gift you can give your children, because then they learn to love themselves. And then they don't go through life people-pleasing. And they don't go through life trying to make everyone else happy. They go through life being happy and bringing more happiness to this world, because they're connected in alignment and heart activation and really doing what they want and being who they want to be.
I love that. I mean, I think that I think parents are like a very, very big part of kids and teens' lives. And as soon as they start to love themselves, and as soon as they start setting that example for their kids, I think that just starts to reflect in everybody around them. Because I think just having people in your life that love themselves, and just a single person can really impact everybody else around them. And so I think that really can impact the kid, and so that they can continue living their life and that they can unfold and learn more about themselves.
Also, just remember too, don't put too much pressure on yourself to be anything, but stop giving your parents such a hard time, guys. Your parents are doing the best, and all your life you're going to hear this. Your parents were doing the best with what they had at the time, because you're really transitioning out of being a kid into an adult. And that middle time of being a teenager is really confusing, because most of the time you're still getting treated like a child, because most of the time you're still acting like a child, but you have all these adult thoughts, and then you have all these childish responses, and then you have all this identity, And then you have all these hormones changing your body and all of these dynamics at school and socially that are really high energy and that really, can shake you up and move you around. But at the end of the day, if you look at your mum and dad and say, I know that you want the best for me, and I know you want me to become a certain thing or be a certain way. And as I'm unfolding, I'm doing my best to find my path through there. So you just have to remember that when you get older, you'll look back at your parents and you'll say, I got through that and I found my way and I did it this way. And just remember that your parents are doing the best that they can with what they have. And if you know this now, you won't need to hear this in therapy in 30 years' time. Because the truth is they are. You were a gorgeous little baby kid that they just loved and brought into this world, and they would die to protect you. They would do anything for you. And now they're doing their very best to watch you become this autonomous adult that's going to go off into the world. And it's hard. It's hard to look at your teenagers as not kids, but not yet adults. So find your middle ground in there and keep communicating. And, sometimes we think it's all about our parents riding us, but the truth is we give them such a hard time.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that as we've been working on Small Bits of Happiness and our podcast and our business and everything, we've gotten so much closer with our parents. And what I've realized, which is very similar to what you were just talking about, is that time is so precious and it goes by so quickly, especially as you start to get older and you have friends and you have other relationships. And so realizing sooner that your parents are just trying their best and you're just trying your best is a much better use of time than being upset.
Yeah, and I also think that with your parents and everybody around you, just having a really good communication is just so much easier to kind of then understand where they're coming from when they're trying to support you, but it seems like they're just trying to tell you that to do this when they're really just wanting the best for you. So I think in the end, communication is just so important for all relationships.
And it's not something a lot of people have. I could communicate anything to my mum, but I could not communicate as a teenager to my dad. My dad was not good at communicating with girl issues, and that put a rift in our relationship for a long time. And I had to heal that in my 20s and be like, but he was just not really, I just remembered not going to him a lot during that time and not feeling really close to him and being angry with him, whereas I could communicate anything to my mom. So any kids out there listening, if you don't feel like you have that parent, or maybe you can only communicate with one, or you can't communicate with either, find an adult that you trust, that you can communicate with. The voice of that person, when you don't have it from somebody else, will carry right into your older life. I've got friends now in their late 40s and 50s that didn't have parents that could support them or communicate with them. And they found amazing mentors in their friends' parents and in aunties and uncles, or in people just outside of the family unit as they got older. And there's always somebody that can bond with you in that way and help you communicate in that way if you don't have that at home.
I love that. Yes, exactly. Don't limit yourself. Just if one relationship is not, different relationships have different purposes, and sometimes you need to form a new one or you need to look elsewhere for support, and that's absolutely okay. Maybe it's a coach, maybe it's a really good friend, like you said, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a grandparent. Just don't give up and recognize that importance and actually, do something.
We know that you are really busy with your self-value program and your work with Portrait Masters, and you're also, I hear you're writing a book. So do you take downtime? And it is an important part of being successful. And what do you do as a way to relax and take breaks?
Okay, so a lot of people talk about discipline, right? You've got to discipline yourself to do this and discipline yourself to do that. And teenagers spend their whole lives just pushing back on discipline. I don't believe in discipline. So I don't have downtime because I I look at it like this. I don't believe that you achieve anything with discipline. I believe it's alignment. And when you're in alignment with what you really want, there is no discipline needed. You show up to it every single day just out of pure joy. I said a long time ago, I don't want to work. I want to create. I'm a creator and I want to create. I want to create products. I want to create, content. I want to create marketing videos. So I got out of a working mindset a long time ago and got into a creator mindset. And because creating is what is my greatest alignment, that's really easy for me to be lit up. And it's super easy for me to get up in the morning and go, I just want to create for 3 hours. I never said I'm going to write a book. I started to write and I enjoyed it so much that I showed up to that every day. That's not discipline. I'm not making myself show up. I'm showing up out of joy. And ironically, a book is coming out. So I feel like people say, I'm going to write a book, and they put all this pressure on themselves, and then they aren't connected to the subject or the writing of it or the verb of doing it, the writing. You just want to be an author. That's just a noun, but you really want to write. And if you want to write, you write every day. You don't need discipline. You need joy. And that's what I've been doing. I just show up to my table every day with this joy and I write. And now I've written a book and potentially a second one before I even published the first one. So I'm certainly not a writer, but now I'm just a lover of writing. So will it make me an author? Hopefully.
I love how the only way to actually create things is through joy, because I think joy is ultimately the biggest creator.
It's such a driving force.
And for you to be able to achieve things, you need to love it. You need to have joy in it. And you can't just do things just because you're telling yourself, I'm going to write, I'm going to be an author, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a page a day. You can't do that. You need to actually love what you're doing. You need to, then afterwards, it just kind of spills out of you and it doesn't feel like work.
Exactly.
So I think there's a really famous, it's one of the Foo Fighters. And he said, look, if you want to be a singer, then every day sing. If you want to be a writer, then every day write. And if you want to, if you talk, if you teach, like he said, whatever you're doing, if you really love it, do it every day, because inevitably someone hears your music and somebody hears you speaking and because you've mastered it, because you show up to it every single day, people are like, what is this? And it's like, if you really love something, that's when you need to do it every day. So what I'd love is for everybody to wake up in their creativity and say, when do I lose time? What am I doing that I just love doing this so much that I don't even think about time, or I don't even think about food? I just enjoy this so much. I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten. Like, you lose time doing it. And it's something that you're doing. And if you keep following that thing, like if you sing every day or dance every day or video every day or make something every day, inevitably you master it. So I believe the only discipline you need is the discipline to set and maintain the boundary to allow you to do your creative pursuits that light you up.
I absolutely love that. And I love how passionate you are about teaching and creating and helping others find their value. And I think that when you find your passion and you make the time to follow it because it energizes you and it helps you through your day and it helps you through your lifestyle, it helps you find your own value. Because as you were saying earlier on today, when you are doing what you enjoy doing, you believe in yourself and you want to continue doing it. And as you continue doing it, you build that skill up, and that helps you feel more value in yourself because you see yourself doing this thing that you really love doing, and you see yourself being good at it because you do it so much, and it just builds this value.
The steps to how do I believe in myself? In order to believe in yourself, you would have to ask for something that you want to become, and you would have to believe you're worthy of asking. Step number one. Then you're going to set a goal. And it doesn't matter how small the goal is. It could be, I'm going to run 1 mile, just a small goal. And you're going to show up every day to walking and running if you enjoy it. And you're going to achieve this goal. And then you're going to see evidence that you could do this. And then you're going to say, I could do it. And because I enjoyed it, I want to keep doing it. And it's like, whoa, okay. Now I'm seeing evidence that this is working, and I'm going to keep showing up. And then I'm setting another goal, and I'm setting another goal. And the second you see evidence, you know that you're on the right path. And that's how you start believing in yourself. You believe you're worthy of asking for it. You show up to it. You start to see evidence. And then you say, I believe I just achieved that, which means, therefore, I now believe in myself. And as you get more confidence, you keep going, and then you achieve the next thing and the next thing. And you just keep proving to yourself that you can achieve the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But remember, you're not trying to achieve things for other people. You're the purpose. You're trying to unfold more of yourself by just following the path that lights you up the most. So stay in there and just keep creating the path forward with the verbs of doing what you love.
I absolutely love that. And so what is like your top tip for someone who maybe is having a lot of like outside noise from school, from social media, online, other friends, etc., about having to be a certain way, and maybe it's not the way that they want to be, and it's not having them as the purpose? What would be like your top piece of advice for someone to prioritize themselves as their purpose?
The greatest thing you can give yourself is self-acceptance. You can just accept who you really are on the inside and start living that as truthfully and as authentically as you can on the outside. So sometimes we want to pierce our nose and have a shaved head, but mum and dad will say no to that. That's okay. That's a very physical identity. And you do become your own physical identity. And how you push into that is entirely up to you as you get older, and you have that power. But inside, when you're thinking, I don't want what they want from me, instead of fighting them, you have to learn who you really are so no one can tell you. Because when you know who you are, you have clarity. And when you know who you are, you know what you want. When you know what you want, you start walking towards it. And again, people don't ask you to live their dreams when you are walking yours, because you already know who you are. So the greatest gift you can give yourself is self-acceptance. Just be okay with who you really are on the inside, and find a way to express it authentically on the outside. And sometimes if that's because we're getting judgment, or then it means we're not living our authentic selves. And we want to be authentic, because otherwise we wouldn't fight so hard to not be something you want me to be. I want to be my authentic self. Truly, I want to love and accept my authentic self. And I believe, like all kids believe, that the only way I could get to self-love is if you accept my inside self. Well, nobody knows who that is yet until you start being it. So self-acceptance is knowing who I am and knowing what I want, because those two things, you won't spend the rest of your life being told who you are and being told what you want and should do. You're like, no, that's not who I am, and that's not what I want for myself. It's okay that you want that for me, but I know who I am, and that is the greatest gift of all, because when you know, you love who you are. And that's the most important thing.
I love that so much. So what's one piece of advice that you wish that you could give to your teenage self?
Ooh. If I could go back, I would say, be bold. Everything you wanted came to you because you went after it, but you could have had it earlier. You were just scared, and there's just be bold. Be bold, but filled with love, because then you're never hurting people, or you're just taking, chances on yourself, and you're being more bold. Like, have difficult conversations. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You might cry, or someone might hurt your feelings, but at least you were honest. Like, ask for things that you want in life. Ask for them, and then step up to receive them in equal exchange. Like, be bold with people. Don't be afraid of your feelings. they'll get trapped inside you if you don't communicate them. So when you love, people love them. And when you are upset with someone, communicate it from a place of love, but be bold. Boldly find your path. Like, know that you are incredibly unique. It doesn't matter how you started. It doesn't matter what race you are, what socioeconomic you were born into. It doesn't matter if your parents were homeless and you were born in a tent. It does not matter. You have this opportunity to unfold yourself. And the best way to do that is, you know who you are inside, accept that, and let it come forward, and just be really bold.
I think that being bold is probably one of, I think that's absolutely amazing advice, because it's like you're just saying, stop caring about what other people think and just do exactly what you think you need to do. And I think that's just something that everybody should do, and that eventually you should just stop thinking, oh, what's this person gonna think? Is this gonna hurt someone else's feelings? Because you can be bold without hurting other people's feelings, but that also means having those difficult conversations. And I think those conversations are so important to do, but can also be really scary.
And also, I loved the piece of don't be afraid of your feelings, because I think the best things that have ever happened to me have been when I've said, I don't care if my friends at school judge me for this. I don't care if anybody says something and they disagree with it, because it's the best thing for me. And in the end, people are like, wow, that's incredible. How did you do that? Like, how are you not afraid of what other people thought? And I said, like, if you just don't even think about it, just honestly do what's best for you. And in the end, it will work out, because it's the best thing that's for you.
Okay, so a really cool thing is, what's the worst thing they're going to say about you? Like, whatever you say in that moment, if I said to you right now, starting this podcast, you might have been like, oh, who will judge me, or who will say things about me? And I would have said, what is the worst thing they could say about you? And then you'll say that one thing that would be the worst thing somebody could say about you. And I'm going to say, is that true? And it must be, because you said it. That means in your mind, you not only decided what they were going to say about you, you already decided what the worst thing they could say about you. You did that. Now get this, what you're most afraid of is what you're going to attract. So when you put yourself out there, the one thing you said that they were going to say about you is the first thing you're going to hear about yourself, because that's what you were most afraid of. Now, if you look at it like that, then you can say, okay, I'm going to do this bold thing. I'm going to ask for this thing, or I'm going to start this conversation, or I'm going to communicate my feelings. What is the worst thing they could say to me? Or if I put this out online, what is the worst thing somebody could say to me? You know, you're ugly, you're dumb. Like, whatever you say is your greatest fear. So if you address the fear and say, okay, before I even do this, the thing that I'm most afraid of is that somebody would call me uneducated and dumb. By the way, that was my greatest fear. Inevitably, I put my brand out there, and the first thing somebody writes is, clearly you have no education. Your punctuation is horrendous. And I instantly felt wounded. Like, they just told me exactly what I was most afraid that they were going to tell me. So I went back and I wrote, yes, I didn't finish high school. Sorry for the bad punctuation. I am a hack. And then about 1,100 people commented under that comment, you are a hack and you're the best. They were defending me. And it was because instead of making it my hurt thing, that is true. That's what I was most afraid of, is that people would think I was stupid just because I didn't finish high school. But I'm not stupid, and I know that. I just was afraid of that. So, of course, that's what I'm going to attract. So, yeah, you're about to attract the one thing that you don't want to hear. So if you say it and you realize you're the one that thought that, it doesn't hurt anymore, because it's not true. It only hurts you when it holds truth for you.
That's so true. And just like facing that and saying, you know what, now I've seen it. Like, I've had the comment, that's the worst thing that's going to happen. So like, it's just going to get better from here. Like, I just think It's so true. And letting one person
going to happen, but then what's all the good things that are going to happen? So yeah, once you get past the scariest thing, then it's only good stuff.
Exactly. Like once you face that fear, it's like, okay, I handled that. I got through that. I can get through the rest and I can keep going. And don't let one person or one comment stop you from all this joy that doing what you love can bring to you.
That's boldness though, right? That's when you're being bold because you're saying like, okay, I'm facing my fear before I even do it. This could happen. It will happen. Whatever we're most afraid of, it's going to come to us. So we might as well just be okay with it right now. And then I feel like once you've done that, you kind of start to realize that my confidence liberates others because I'm so strong in my confidence of myself. I'm giving, not asking for validation. And I feel like, once you get to there, you just are like, you're just unfolding beautifully.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
So we are all about the little small things, little small bits of happiness in every day. And so I wanted to ask you, what's one thing that you do every day that brings you a small bit of happiness?
I say I am becoming. And I say it over and over again, like I could be walking, driving the car, in the shower. I don't ever think about things I want to be. I just think about I am becoming. So I say it like a mantra, and then I just finish the sentence. So I am becoming someone that speaks up for myself. Like, let's say I'm about to go into a big meeting. I'm becoming someone that's very confident in meetings. I'm becoming someone who is creatively connective. I am becoming someone who takes naps in the afternoon. I just say it to myself, I am becoming, because I am becoming a lot of things. And I don't say I want to be or I wish I was. I'm always talking about becoming because I want to constantly, always be looking at what I'm becoming. And the other one is when I get stuck on something, I say, I choose to believe something different. I choose to believe in this. I choose to believe, like somebody said something hurtful to me, but I choose to believe, I don't believe that. I choose to believe this. And those two things, if I'm always, I am becoming and I choose to believe, whatever I get stuck on in my own head, I can then get out of it by just asking myself, is that true? Or is that what I'm most afraid of? Or then I'm kind of like, oh, I am becoming all these cool things. I'm becoming someone with self-confidence. I'm becoming someone who loves how they look. I'm becoming somebody who is finding their career path. As long as I'm becoming something, I'm never stuck.
And I think that, especially once you start telling yourself that, you'll start to, believe it because, it takes 21 days to make a habit and 90 days to make a permanent lifestyle change. And once your brain starts to hear, I am becoming, and then you finish your sentence, it's like it knows that this is who you're becoming and it'll help you start acting that way. And
it's a constant journey. I am becoming kind of reassures the fact that yes, you might not be perfect yet, but you're becoming, so you're further along than when you first started.
Exactly.
So it's like that. It's that constant journey because in the end, we're never done. We're never perfect. We're never an expert at something. We're never complete. And so I love that I am becoming.
Yeah. And to me, it's it's a mantra to unfold. And I've watched people. Now, you've heard of positive affirmations. Okay. When you have strong emotions, let's say you're really upset. And we know when teenagers have angst and they have an attitude that it's despair. And it's easy to be in that despair inside because you're battling with something and you can't verbalize it or communicate it. To me, when you you think about it in your mind, go through all of the I choose to believe, I am becoming, all of these thoughts, you get stuck in that loop. And then that loop attaches to I'm not good enough and I don't have this and I'm not like them. And you go back to comparison and then ego. And then you're stuck in the superficial brain instead of this beautiful creative brain where you can become whatever you want as long as you unfold that every single day. So to me, I am becoming and I choose to believe 100%. This is what it came down to for me. when I was going through my business and I wanted to have confidence, I was reading positive affirmations, and it said to go to the mirror and say this positive affirmation like you already have it. And I remembered walking to the mirror and saying, I have lots of money. And at the time I had no money and lots of debt and lots of money stress. And I said this positive affirmation and my brain instantly responded and said, no, you don't. And I said, it's a positive affirmation, but I didn't believe it. But when I say I'm becoming someone that asks for money, I'm becoming someone that's self-employed, I'm becoming someone that manages money, I'm becoming someone that attracts money, I'm becoming someone that saves money. When I would say that, my brain believes that because I am becoming those things. But when I would say the positive affirmation with lots of negative emotion, it doesn't shift the emotion. That's why positive affirmations don't work when you feel really strongly about something. You actually have to get rid of the narrative in your brain first and then say, I am becoming this thing. And for some reason, I am becoming this thing is easier to say than I am. And so that's how I do my positive affirmations, and it really works.
I absolutely love that. So as the whole process of evolving and becoming is kind of on the topic, I wanted to ask, do you have anything exciting coming up that you would like to share with us?
Oh my goodness. I am just writing more content right now. I would love in the next year to create, after I publish my book, to create a teenagers program for self-value, because I feel like it's really different. A lot of the time when you're working with older people, you're working through a lot of the stuff that they've experienced in their adult life, but teenagers especially, are just so raw, and I would love to do that. More content, I also teach content curators, which I love to do. So I love to teach creatives how to make money. And I love to teach people that in order to make money and find your true path, you have to find your true self. So I'm really just pushing into my greatest strengths is I like to teach, I like to curate content, and those two things are my verbs. And then all I have to do is fill them with my voice and my authenticity, and I have, a path forward. So I'm really just focused on creating more content and seeing if I can publish a book. You never know. And really just learning more, because the more I teach, the more I learn, and then the more I can create and the more I have to share, which is super cool.
Amazing. Well, I'm so excited for your new content and your book and your potential teen value program, because I definitely think that's very needed. Is there anywhere that we can direct our listeners if they want to find out more and follow along with you?
You can find me at Self Value Podcast on Spotify. You can find me at Self Value, and I'm interviewing you too for my podcast, because I'm super excited about that. You can find me at selfvalue.com, and I'm on Instagram as Sue Bryce Photographer and Self Value Workshop.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, girls. It was great talking to you, and I can't wait to interview you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Hack Your Happiness.
And a huge thank you to Sue Bryce for coming on this episode with us. We learned so much. She is beyond amazing and inspiring. Anastasia, what's your biggest takeaway from today?
I love how she changed the word work to being creative, because when you kind of start using that instead, you really change your perspective on things, and you start viewing things in a more positive manner. Instead of saying, oh, I have to work, now you're saying, I get to be creative, and you just fully change your perspective on things and you enjoy it more. And continuing on from that, joy is the full motivation. Joy is what makes you successful. If something brings you joy and doing your creative work makes you happy, well, that is your purpose.
And I think also, the thing is that doing creative work can be anything. Writing a book, that's creative. But so is playing a sport, because you have to, think differently. If you want to succeed at that, you have to be able to think differently from other people. Same with drama, same with any interest you have. So just because you're not a content creator or an artist or a writer does not mean you're not being creative. It's just all how you look at it. And I would say my biggest takeaway that I absolutely love and I'm 100% going to implement into my daily life is you are your purpose. Nothing else is your purpose. Doing good is not your purpose. Helping others is not your purpose. That's all a part of being you and fulfilling yourself. And you are your purpose, and doing what serves you is your purpose. And there's many different things that branch off from that, but in the grand scheme of things, you are your purpose. And I think that as teens, we are struggling to figure out what our purpose is. And when you just narrow it down and you realize I am my own purpose, it is so beautiful and powerful.
And another thing that I just loved was I am becoming. Because once you kind of stop saying, oh, this is something that I want to be or I wish I was, you are becoming, because it's like you're on the way. So you stop feeling like your brain isn't like, no, you're not. Because you can't be something you're not. But if you're saying, I'm becoming, I don't know, more confident, or I am becoming
a better version of myself.
Exactly.
You are not
on the
far
way
away from that. I think that with personal and positive affirmations, sometimes our brains can push back a bit and be like, but I'm not wealthy, like Sue was saying, or but I'm not the most confident version of myself, or but I'm not getting straight A's in all my classes, but I am becoming better at studying. I'm
becoming a better student.
And I am becoming a better version of myself. It's all about the process and the journey.
And eventually, because no one is ever going to be perfect. You're never going to be the number one student in the world. You're never going to always be perfect, because that's not possible. But I am becoming is just such a much better perspective to kind of make a habit of.
And it puts a lot less pressure on you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. It really does help us bring you more interviews with iconic individuals.
And also be sure to join our happiness family by following this podcast on whichever platform you're listening on, because you won't want to miss our next iconic interview.
See you next time!